This is a stimulus update and daily news report. Got some important updates to share with you. With President Biden getting a few wins this week and the Democrats, is it enough for the American people? Well, Bernie Sanders doesn't think so. Bernie Sanders thinks that there needs to be more aid, more financial aid for all the people who are struggling in our country. I'll play the video clip of what Bernie Sanders says, and I'll go over the latest stimulus check articles like this, how to get a rebate of up to $700 before December, and a federal energy stimulus check program offering $1,800 in assistance, and Americans to get $2,000 monthly direct payments in next round of relief payments, and I'll give you some other more important updates as well. Hope you're having a wonderful weekend. If you appreciate the fact-based, fast-paced updates, hit the like button down below. So gas prices are falling. Here's why it's happening and whether it can continue. The national average for a gallon of gas has dropped below $4 on Thursday for the first time since March. The drop comes as oil falls from its highs. Crude makes up for more than half of the cost at the pump, and the streak of daily declines in retail price of gasoline is about to end. So, is this going to continue? I don't know. The low gas prices are pretty nice, I must admit. I do see whenever I fill up, it is a lot lower, so that's always good. But in terms of all the American people, lower gas prices just isn't enough to cut it. Bernie Sanders thinks that more needs to be done. There needs to be more financial aid, which is what he wanted out of that Inflation Reduction Act. He did try to get monthly checks in there, the child tax credit, but it didn't go through because not everyone else voted for it as well. He did try a lot of other things. Take a look at what Bernie Sanders thinks needs to be done to help out the American people.
You know, Wolf, in the real world, our people in this country are hurting. Half of the people are living paycheck to paycheck. We pay the highest prices in the world for health care. We got 18 million families spending 50% of their limited incomes on housing. We have people who cannot afford child care or pre-K. We have a home health care crisis in this country with people who are elderly or disabled are forced into nursing homes because they don't have the home health care that they need. We have millions of seniors who don't have any teeth in their mouth. They can't afford hearing aids. They can't afford eyeglasses. In other words, the working families of this country, the senior citizens, the children. We have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country. And what my understanding of what politics and government is about is to address the needs of ordinary people, not just big money interests. So the bottom line is, this bill that we brought forth on Sunday had zero Republican support. We couldn't find one Republican who was prepared to stand up for working people. And you had two corporate Democrats who are not prepared to stand up for working people. And that's where it was. But if you're asking me, am I disappointed that we have not addressed the major crises facing the working class, the middle class, lower income people? I am. What I want to see right now is that the Congress of the United States, working with President Biden next year, develop an agenda that says to working families and the elderly and the kids, we understand your pain and that we have the guts to take on the big money interest at a time when we have more income and wealth inequality than any other major country on earth. You know, Wolf, you've heard me say this again, and I think recent events point this out. This country is moving toward an oligarchic form of society, where you got three people on top who own more wealth than the bottom half of American society. You got three Wall Street firms that have control assets of over $20 trillion. That's the GDP of the United States. Unbelievable wealth and power at the top, while the middle class is in decline and lower income people are really suffering. We need to work right now, next year, with President Biden on an agenda that addresses those issues.
What are your thoughts on Bernie Sanders? Do you agree, disagree? Let me know. I think there definitely needs to be more help for the American people, one way or another. Let's get into the stimulus check news. Direct payments, how to get a rebate of up to $700 before December. So as many as 1.5 million people could be eligible in South Carolina. So this is for taxpayers in South Carolina in line to receive a rebate up to $700 before the end of the year after lawmakers approve payments, which could total $1 billion back in June. So looks like this is my state. I live in South Carolina, so rebates worth up to $700 could go out. So yeah, if you're in South Carolina, be aware of that. And then federal energy stimulus check. This program offers up to $1,800 in assistance. So federal stimulus money. So this is kind of a misleading headline. Actually, no, not kind of. It is a misleading headline. I wish they didn't say the word federal energy stimulus check, because then it makes you think that everybody in the country is getting it, which isn't true. So this is just going on for residents of Washington, D.C. They're getting $1,800 for their energy costs through the Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program. So yeah, that's where that $1,800 is coming from. It's either between $250 and $1,800 if you live in Washington, D.C. And then Americans to get $2,000 monthly direct payments in next round of relief payments, but you have just days to apply. So this is for applications for the Black Resilience Fund close on August 15th, and up to 50 families in Portland will receive the checks. So this is at least 7,500 people have already applied in the first 24 hours, and the way it will work out is single adults will get $1,000 per month, while families with 2 or 3 kids will get $1,500 per month, and families with 3 or more children will get monthly payments of $2,000. You must be at least 18 years old, identify as Black, African American, or African, and live in Multnomah County in order to be eligible to apply. So those are the $2,000 monthly checks. Definitely the highest universal basic income program I've seen. Wish other people could have access to it as well. Be great if more people could have $2,000 monthly checks. When it comes to President Biden to stay laser focused on legislative accomplishments amid Trump investigations, and it's tough timing because this is probably the best week for President Biden and the Democrats in terms of economic news, passing big legislation. These are a lot of wins for them, but during when I do my research, a lot of that is kind of trumped by the Trump FBI raid. So yeah, he's not getting as much victory laps as I guess he would like to. And Democrats, Biden have had a string of recent wins. Could it help them in the midterm elections? Well, let me ask you that. If you were planning on voting for Republicans or Democrats or undecided, do you feel like because of all the wins that happened recently, is that enough to get your vote to vote for Democrats in the midterm elections? Let me know your thoughts on that. When it comes to the White House communications director, she has a few things to say about what the White House is doing and what more can be done. Take a look at this right here.
And joining us now is White House Communications Director Kate Bedingfield. Hey, Kate, thanks for being with us. So arguably, this has been a very good week. You've had a great week legislatively. Gas prices are inching down, even though core inflation is still a problem. Do you think that this could add up to a better outlook for the Democrats in the midterms?
Well, I think you're right. It's been a very good week for President Biden and the Democrats, but it's also been a good week for American families. I mean, we are on the cusp of passing the Inflation Reduction Act and having it come to the president's desk. It's going to lower energy costs. It's going to lower healthcare costs. It's going to ensure that Medicare can negotiate for the lowest prescription drug prices, which is something that people have wanted and that we've been trying to get done in Washington for decades. And now, as a result of President Biden's leadership and work with the congressional Democrats, we're on the cusp of getting that done. So that, in addition to what we're seeing economically, a month where we had 0% inflation this month, 500,000 jobs. So we're seeing jobs up, costs coming down. So President Biden's economic agenda is working, and you're going to hear the president and the administration out talking about that over the coming months.
Of course, no fault of yours, but the overwhelming story this week was the search warrant and the raid at the former president's house at Mar-a-Lago. So you didn't get as much coverage as you might have liked in the news media. And the president, of course, in the previous week was, isolated with COVID. So you had a couple of bad breaks. He still has historically low polls, and that is dragging down Democrats in a lot of these races. How do you counteract that?
First of all, even as the president was isolated with COVID, he was out and people were seeing him. We learned through a very non-traditional campaign in 2020 that even when you have to be in isolation, there are still ways to communicate. There's still ways to reach people. And so the president was out during that time frankly, continuing to rack up wins. So, what we're going to do is continue to have the president out making the case. A lot of these things that we're seeing Congress pass in these last couple of weeks are things the president campaigned on. They're things he's been talking about. He's been making a case to the American people since 2019, and in some cases even earlier, that we need to do this. And now we're on the cusp of these historic steps forward to tackle the climate crisis and, again, to bring down costs, to address the things that people are worried about around their kitchen table. So, we're going to continue to be out there. You're going to continue to hear from the president. And you mentioned Trump. The other thing I would say, of course, the Department of Justice is entirely independent from the White House, as it should be. But I would also note that President Biden has never shied away from talking about the existential threat that he believes that Donald Trump, that January 6th, and that the extremist Republican agenda poses to the country. So you're going to continue to hear from him on that, as you have from the outset.
Well, and in fact, I think there's an anniversary of that horrific march in Charlottesville, which was, he said, the reason why he decided to run.
That's exactly right.
Saving the soul of the nation. And according to the Washington Post, he had an off-the-record dinner with historians, which presidents do, presidents other than Mr. Trump, and that they warned him more seriously than they ever had before, that they felt, as a group, several of them felt, that the future of the country is at stake right now. How does the president feel about that?
Well, as you said, Andrea, it was that march in Charlottesville, that awful march in August a few summers ago, that really catalyzed him to get into the race. And he believes truly that we are in a battle for the soul of this nation. And so he's always tried to engage historians throughout this presidency. He's done a couple of these meetings. He wants to hear perspective on where our country's been in the past at moments of great inflection like this. There's no question that our rights are at risk. What we see is an extremist agenda, again, from congressional Republicans who are looking to take away rights all across the country. And what the president is doing is putting forward an agenda that's focused on protecting those rights, on protecting right to women's health care, protecting our democracy, and simultaneously bringing down costs, focusing on those kitchen table issues. This is something that the president is extremely focused on. We're, again, on the cusp of a historic victory, which comes on top of continuing good news on gas prices coming down faster than they have at any point in a decade. I believe over $1 a gallon over the last few weeks. So what we're continuing to see is President Biden make good progress on the economic agenda, but also to continue to advance an agenda that's going to protect your rights and that's going to protect our democracy.
A few different topics discussed there. What are your thoughts on all that? Let me know down in the comments below. And that is all the news that I have for you today to hopefully cheer you up a bit. Here's my daughter Bella's tip of the day.
Hi guys, how are you doing? I want to give you 3 things of the tip of the day. So first off, be happy, be grateful, and be humble. And then I want to do one more thing to you. Do the things that you want to do in a lifetime. Guys, you guys can do whatever you want, at least if you want to do it. Because I'm here for you, you guys like us, and my dad wants to say hi, so we're gonna move on. Bye.
Thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a great weekend. Personally, we got a huge list of stuff. Got to do the lawn care, got to clean out the garage, got to do a bunch of other tasks, a bunch of adult stuff, which I guess you have to do once in a while, but I just like having fun with the kids usually. But today is not that day for us. Hopefully you have a great rest of your day. If you want to check out any of my other videos on my other channels, you can click right up here, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care, be safe. Thank you for watching.